Every day I see somebody post this on Facebook or on some of the message boards out there. I can't seem to get an authentic tone out of my digital platform. Not only do I have the answer to that question, I can solve your problem right here, and I got the facts and the demonstrations to back it all up. Let's check it out. Well, I figured it was high time I did an episode like this. I was going to go to my studio to shoot it, but we had so much snow today and the roads are terrible. I didn't want to venture out and take the chance. So I'm going to do it right here in my living room. So please excuse the the low production level here, but I've been jonesing to do this for a while, so I wanted to get this done today since it's a snow day and I got nothing better to do. So I wanted to talk to you about a lot of the questions and the problems that I see out there regarding the digital platforms and why a lot of people are finding it hard to get an authentic tone out of it. And some of the questions that I see as well are people saying, well, I get it dialed in and I think it sounds pretty good at home, and then I go on stage and the sound guy's looking at me and going, why does your rig sound like crap, or it's too this or not enough that. And same thing when they go in the studio. They have it sounding okay at home, and then they go in the studio and all hell breaks loose, and they wonder why they're not getting a consistent sound everywhere they go. Well, the biggest culprit to that is the speaker that you're dialing in your digital platform on. I use the Line 6 Helix, and truth be told, I struggled with this myself when I first got it. I thought I had a pretty good tone dialed in, and it was good, it was decent, but when I went on stage, I found out that my tone wasn't really consistent with what I thought it was. It sounded way different when I got on stage, and I walked the room in the venue and I'm playing on my wireless and I'm just like, man, this doesn't sound good at all. It sounds terrible. It sounded really fizzy and thin, and even the sound guy, who was a friend of mine, was even like, man, we got to fix that. And the same thing happened when the first time I went in the studio with it. The engineer was looking at me and he was like, well, there's a lot of fizz there, and I don't know if we're going to be able to use that unless we could do some touch-ups on the tone here. So we had to spend a lot of time on dialing it in. And I kept wondering, why is it that I have it dialed in at home the way I like it, and then I go out and it sounds different everywhere I play? Well, the reason was I was dialing it in on the wrong speakers, and they were lying to me. They were telling me that I needed more of this and less of that, and then when I went out to a studio or a venue, all of the stuff that I adjusted accordingly, now it was sounding really bad. And so I found out that I was kind of dialing in a lie, if that makes sense. So I want to ask you something. When's the last time you got a really nice gourmet coffee and it was delivered to you in a styrofoam cup? I don't remember the last time that happened to me. There's a reason why they don't serve coffee in styrofoam cups, because it tastes like crap out of a styrofoam cup. It's just the way it is. It's horrible. In fact, what they actually recommend that you drink coffee out of is a stone mug like this, because it doesn't influence the flavor. So the coffee tastes about as pure as it's gonna out of one of these. Let me ask you another question. If you went to a local microbrewery where they spend tons of time brewing the right beers and they take great pride in what they do, and if you walked in there and said, hey, I want to take a growler of that home, what do they hand you? Do they hand you a plastic growler, or do they hand you a glass one? Well, they're going to hand you a glass one, because if the brewer knows anything about beer, which I'm sure he does, he's a brewer, he's not going to serve it to you in a plastic growler or a plastic bottle, because he knows that the plastic bottle is going to influence the taste of the beer in a negative way. Now imagine, beer companies out there, how much money they would save if they put beer in plastic bottles. I mean, can you imagine the load it would release from the trucks that they ship it on, the gas they would save, the maintenance on the trucks that they would save by not using glass, which is much heavier. But it would sacrifice the flavor of the beer so much that sales would plummet. And they've tried it. They've actually tried it. You know, I remember seeing the ads where they throw a beer bottle to a guy and he misses it and it hits the floor and it doesn't shatter. Well, that's not worth it to me to drink beer out of a plastic bottle to have it taste like crap. You know, I'm not going to do that, and neither are you. Well, the first thing that you want to ask yourself is, what is my speaker enclosed in that I'm dialing in my tone from? Because what it's enclosed in is going to greatly affect what's coming out of it. It's going to affect the tone. It's going to color it in a positive or a negative way. Okay? The further you get away from wood enclosures, the bigger the lie gets. And that's basically the long and the short of it right there. This is a Mission Engineering cab, and it's enclosed with Baltic birch wood. So are the Friedman cabs that I use, Baltic birch. That's what a guitar cab is made out of. So if you're trying to emulate a good guitar cab sound, you have to start with the exterior of the cab first. If it's not made out of wood and it's made out of plastic, like what you see here in this monitor, it's gonna lie to you. Now I understand not everybody can afford a wooden guitar cab or an FRFR cab for their digital platform. But if you can, don't skimp, because basically by putting a plastic speaker at the end of your tone, in other words, that's the last thing that has any say over your tone, it's a horrible insurance policy over all of that time that you spent tweaking and dialing in your tone. And let's face it, you spend a ton of money on your digital platform. I mean, they start around, $1,000 and they go up to $4,000. So anywhere in between there. So it's kind of like buying a Maserati and getting PL and PD insurance on it. If something happens to that thing, you're screwed. And it's the same thing. You have a cheap insurance policy over your very expensive tone that you meticulously dialed in for hours. And that speaker is going to basically be shouting lies at everybody, including you, who's dialing it in. So start with a cab that is made out of wood. Okay? The next thing that you want to look for is something with enough power to project the sound without using up all of the headroom in the cab, so you don't have to worry about any kind of distortion or anything like that. The Friedman cabs are very powerful, and so is the Gemini cab. They're both very good at what they do. They're both wood. They both have a lot of balls and a lot of power to them, so they'll do the job for you. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to play some riffs, and I'm going to run that same riff through each one of these products that I have here, so that you can hear the difference. And I put a good mic in the room so it doesn't color the sound very much. Mics are going to pick it up the way they pick it up, but at least at this juncture, you're going to hear the difference between the products. And the thing I'm going to do as well is I'm going to line them up right next to each other, so that when you hear the differences, you're going to be really shocked at the products that you thought might be really good, but you're going to find out they're not as good as you thought they were, especially when you compare them directly with the proper products that are out there. So here's a list of all of the cabs and or speakers or FRFR units that I'm going to be using today to show you the differences in how they sound. The Friedman ASC-12, the Mackie TH-12A, the Line 6 Stage Source L3M, the Mission Gemini 2, the Behringer B215A. So these are all pretty common products out there, and some of them are pretty inexpensive, and some of them are right up there in the higher end of the price range, but you're going to see why they're worth every single penny by the end of this video. So my goal here today is to show you the actual differences between how these sound and how they project everything. And you're going to hear with your own ears how much they differ from each other. And you're going to see how some of these products actually suck the tone out of your sound. And what's happening is that you're going to dial in all of the stuff that these speakers are sucking out. And then when you get into a situation where you're in a quality PA system or a studio, All that stuff that you dialed in because it was sucked out because you're using the wrong speaker, well, guess what? Now you have way too much of that, and the engineers are going to look at you and go, your tone sucks. The nice thing that you can count on when you dial in your tone on a totally transparent FRFR cab is this. You know that your tone is good, because if it sounds good through that, it's good. There's no color, and there's no way that that product is going to lie to you. So if you go to a venue and the sound guy looks at you and says, you don't sound good through the FOH, one of two things, or maybe even three things, are the problem. Either he sucks and he's got you dialed in wrong, so I would check the EQ and make sure he doesn't have you EQ'd improperly. Number two, the PA that you're going through sucks. Or number three, him and his equipment both suck. Because you can guarantee yourself this. You dialed it in on a totally transparent FRFR cab and you know the sound is good. So it's something on his end that's the problem. Same thing with the studio. If you go into a studio, you can count on your tone being exactly the way it's supposed to be through the proper studio speakers. And I can attest to this myself. The last time I went to the studio, after I got the proper FRFR cabs, my tone was 100% identical to what I dialed it in at home. And I didn't have any worries about it not being consistent. It was exactly as I expected it to be. And the engineer looked at me and he didn't have to do anything to my tone at all. It was done. Where before, he had to spend a lot of time on my tone to take out all of the extra stuff that I put in to make up for the tone-sucking FRFR that I ran my Helix through. So now I don't have to worry about that anymore. One other thing I'm going to say before the demo starts, look at FRFR cabs like this. When you get ready for the day, you don't comb your hair in a warped, dirty mirror, do you? Well, I doubt it, because if you did and then you saw yourself in a mirror that was just normal, your hair would look like an explosion of a mattress factory and you would wonder what the hell's wrong with you. So it's the same thing with women. They're not going to put on their makeup and do their hair in a warped, spotty, tinted mirror because they're going to do it according to what they're seeing there. And then when they look into a mirror that's clean, it's not warped, and it's not tinted, they're going to see all of the stuff that they did wrong, and it's probably going to be a horror show. So it's the same thing with FRFR. Have something that's 100% or at least close to 100% transparent, so that when you're dialing in your tone, there's no lies. You know that you can count on what you're hearing. And anywhere you go, you know that what you're giving the front of house or what you're giving the monitor guy or what you're giving the studio guy is 100% accurate. And worst case scenario, there just has to be minor tweaks to it to adjust to each system out there. But I'm telling you right now, this video will definitely convince you that everything that I'm saying here is 100% right. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm playing a couple kinds of riffs for you. I'm doing like a song type riff, a really chuggy, heavy type riff so that you can hear the pick attack and the fullness from the speaker. I'm also doing some cleans for you so that you can hear how the cleans are even colored through the different speakers that I'm using. So here we go. I'll check in with you after the video so we can wrap up. Well, there you have it. The proof, as they say, is in the pudding. And I got to tell you right now, I was really shocked, even myself, when I lined them up right next to each other for direct comparison, how big of a difference there was between all of the speaker cabinets. I mean, here's the thing. Some of them didn't sound bad, but they weren't accurate. See, remember, what you want to look for in a cab or some sort of sound source for your digital platform isn't necessarily something that sounds good to your ear. You want something that sounds accurate and that is transparent. Because once again, when you plug into that speaker at home and dial in everything, when you go to a venue or a studio and plug directly into their board, it's not going to sound the same. And trust me, some of the things that you're going to dial in to make that speaker at home sound great to your ears is going to make your tone sound terrible in an FOH system, monitor system, or in a studio situation. That's why it's imperative, I can't express this enough to you, it's imperative that you get an FRFR, full range, flat response speaker that is colorless and transparent for your tone, so that you can be guaranteed that your tone is exactly how it should be and everything that you did is on point. So no matter where you go, you're always going to sound consistent, and it's never going to be your fault that your tone doesn't sound good. So you can eliminate that from the troubleshooting equation. The only things you'll have to do is troubleshoot what the sound guy or the engineer did on his end to make it sound terrible. Well, if you like this video, please subscribe, because these videos take actually a very long time to do, even in a low production setting like this. They take several hours to set up, to shoot, to edit, and then to upload. So please subscribe to my channel, because I'm looking forward to giving you guys great content that we can all learn from. And I look forward to seeing your comments below. Feel free to comment below and share this with your friends. And please don't forget to subscribe.